In our All-Star Roundtable this week, Dale Butland, Communications Director for Innovation Ohio, a progressive think tank, and Doug Preisse, Chairman of the Franklin County Executive Committee of the Franklin County Republican Party. And we welcome you, both gentlemen, back. And we've been talking about Jobs Ohio. This week, the board members were named by the governor, most of the board members. Lots of people say this is going to be the future for Ohio, getting jobs and the economy turned around. Some say it's going to be a secret society. Nobody's going to know what's happening. What's your take on Jobs Ohio and what we can expect in the coming weeks?
Well, we're very excited about it. The governor just named much of the board in recent days, and also the chief investment officer, Mark Kwame, who came to Ohio for 6 months. Now he's going to stay and be a resident, one of the leading job creators in the country. So we're pretty excited about it. And they are top-level CEOs, job creators from across business sectors and from across the state. So it's a diverse group. They're going to be hardworking. They're volunteering. The chief investment officer is working for $1 a year. And we're going to give it a go. It's new. It's different. A little scary in some circles because it hasn't been really tried before, but this administration is trying and trying hard.
Well, I certainly hope it works, because heaven knows we need jobs in this state. The problem I have with Jobs Ohio is that the problems that were there initially haven't been fixed. There's still no transparency. There's still no accountability. This organization is still exempt from open records laws. It's still exempt from the ethics laws. The Inspector General, the Auditor of State don't have the same degree of oversight that they would have over a state agency. And to your point, Colleen, about the people on it, these are folks who are all either campaign contributors to Governor Kasich or CEOs of companies to whom he's given large amounts of money. And I find it hard to believe they're going to be anything other than a rubber stamp for anything he and Mr. Kwame want to do.
Well, that's a off-the-bat negative attitude, which, of course, I take the other side. These are outstanding and upstanding men and women of great character and ability.
But they're working for nothing.
And they're working for nothing. And obviously, they're not going to be going out hustling deals for their own companies, but for all Ohio. And I will say, too, that Dale is right. This isn't government and isn't supposed to look and act like government. We've tried that, and the Department of Development, through many administrations, has done some good things, but now it's time to try something else. So I admit, and this administration admits, Jobs Ohio is not government. This is a private sector, public partnership, and we're going to give it a go.
But Doug, to his point, it is a private sector entity, but it's using public funds. And when it's taxpayer funded, people want to know, what are you doing with our money? What decisions are you making, and why can't we see you make them?
It will be principally funded by liquor profit proceeds, which do flow through the state and are being turned over with oversight and with accountability. Not the same as having bureaucrats in your face every single day, but business works different than government. We're trying to create jobs here, and yes, we are freeing up Jobs Ohio to be more aggressive and more flexible on behalf of the state of Ohio, and it's going to be a much more aggressive, muscular tool that we're going to try to use. There is accountability, there is oversight, but it is not your typical government bureaucracy. That much I say absolutely true.
Not quite sure what the oversight is. They are only required to produce an annual report. That means once a year. By the time that report comes out, the money will have long been spent, and the public will have no knowledge of where until that annual report comes out. Now, Colleen, one of the reasons that Governor Kasich justified originally there being no transparency and no accountability is he said, well, this will be funded through private money. Well, that turns out not to be true. There's $100 million worth of taxpayer money, as Doug says, that's coming through the privatization of the liquor profits. All that money is going in there. I'm not suggesting these are bad people or that these are people who are self-dealing people. All I'm saying is when you're talking about this amount of money and it's taxpayer money, then it seems to me if we learned anything over the last several years, it's the need for some regulation and some oversight. That's all I'm saying.
And we disagree. I think there's plenty of oversight, and we will see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll try something new. But this is going to be something to watch in action.
I also want to move on and talk for a few minutes about the debt ceiling debate that's been underway in Washington. We saw some heated exchanges this week between President Obama and some members of Congress. In fact, a president walked out on one of the meetings. they seem to be far apart on reaching some kind of a compromise with this August 2nd deadline looming for the government to go into default. Yeah. What's it going to take to get members of either party to blink and start working toward the center and working toward compromise, because we're not seeing much of that these days in Washington?
I would suggest to you that it's not a matter of who blinks. I think this is what we have to have is compromise here in the interest of the country, in the best interest of the country. Let's be clear for your viewers as to what this is about and what's at stake. Raising the debt ceiling has nothing to do with new spending. It has to do with paying the bills for the spending we've already done. If you were a family, it would be akin to running up bills on the credit card for the family and then refusing to pay for it. If we do this, it would be catastrophic. You will have the bond markets and the stock markets will tank. You're going to have interest rates going through the ceiling. That's going to affect everybody, because that's going to affect student loans and car loans, home mortgages, and so on. Jobs are going to go. Social Security checks are not going to go out on time. Checks to members of our military. I mean, this would be an absolute catastrophe. The United States of America pays its bills, and for people to be playing politics with this is ridiculous. Now, I will say something in Doug's with regard to House Speaker Boehner, who is from Ohio. He has been responsible in this. Mr. Boehner has reached a deal with President Obama behind the scenes, where Republicans have been asking for $2 trillion in spending cuts. President Obama raised the ante. He's got $4 trillion in deficit reduction, most of it through spending cuts. There's $3 of spending cuts for every dollar in revenues. Where it's come apart is with the conservative wing of the Republican Party in the House, and some in the Senate, but mostly the House, who refuse any revenue increases at all. And we're not talking about raising tax rates. We're talking about closing loopholes. Like, for instance, hedge fund managers being taxed at a 15% rate, less than their chauffeurs are paying. We're talking about tax breaks for the ownership of private aircraft. But you've got a group, a fairly small group, but they're basically running the show, who are saying no revenues of any kind. All the deficit reduction has to be done through spending cuts. That would be catastrophic for seniors, for lots of people. The president's not going to do that. And every economist, whether they're Republican or Democrat, says you can't do significant deficit reduction through spending cuts alone. There has to be revenues. And one last point. Doug and his party always love to say, we don't have a revenue problem in this country. We have a spending problem.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, the truth is, Doug, we have both. Revenues as a percentage of GDP are the lowest they've been in almost 60 years, since 1958 to be precise. So we have a revenue problem as well, and we've got to raise revenues in order to close this gap.
Doug, it does seem that the Tea Party conservatives, that wing of the party in Washington, who are so adamant about the way this is going to be handled, don't seem to be willing to compromise at all. Do you think that they're kind of controlling the direction that your party is taking?
Well, I think that it's unfair for Dale to characterize this only as intransigence on the conservatives' part because there won't be revenue enhancement. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people are frustrated with the continued growth and size of government and spending, not only in Ohio, federally, but in Ohio too. And we just saw a budget passed here by Republicans that was responsible, closed a multi-billion-dollar deficit. We can argue how many billions, but billions, and without a tax increase. We've got to get spending under control. Count me among the Republicans and fairly conservative Republicans that say, yes, let's look at loopholes that we have to close. That's how we balanced the budget in great part 15, 18 years ago. And that needs to be done again, too. But I will tell you, the government, when it spends more than it takes in, is irresponsible. And today, as we film, is Bastille Day. Happy Bastille Day to both of you.
But I will
remind us all that in great part what caused the French Revolution was the government spent way over its means and overtaxed the people. And we want to avoid a crisis, and boy, we don't want to have a government shutdown. We're together on that, too. That was bad for Republicans politically last time. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm optimistic in the next 2 or 3 weeks that cool heads will prevail, but I'm glad to see that some heel digging in has brought the president closer to the middle in terms of cutting spending.
only the chairman of the Franklin County Republican Party could say that could liken the French Revolution to the Tea Party movement. But
you are now standing up for the little guy, though.
It happens when you spend more than when government. We can't spend more than we take in. We're going to get right back to this position in another few years.
But Doug, there's an easy answer. All you guys have to do is take yes for an answer. The president has said, I'll not only have deficit reduction of $2 trillion, let's do $4 trillion. Yeah. And Boehner agreed to it, but he had to withdraw from it because he can't get it through his caucus.
Not yet.
Not yet. The Tea Party caucus.
The vote isn't tomorrow.
And we will find out how that will be in the days ahead. And we thank you both for being with us, and we will be right back. Next week on The Spectrum, will a deal be made to avert an economic catastrophe in Washington? Plus, the process to start redrawing the congressional lines heads to the drawing board. And, of course, our All-Star Roundtable on NBC4's The Spectrum. Hope you can join us then.